Thank you very much. So, I don't know if you've noticed, but I think things are a little unsettled around in our life right now. Maybe not for some people, but I think for most of us, it's an unsettling time. Another unsettling time. So I thought today I would talk about how we find our place and negotiate unsettling times. What do you think? Okay. Good, because that's what I prepared. So we know that we never know what's next, right? I mean, that's core to Buddhist teachings. And I think if we've lived long enough, we realize that we don't know what's next. But there are times when that becomes really vivid, I think, in our lives. And it can feel like we're finding our way in the dark, that we are bumping into things or things are bumping into us. Louder. Thank you. So we see challenges and we experience the need for some kind of deep grounding, something that will allow us to skillfully negotiate unsettling times. So in times like that, I think it's important to pause and reflect on what sustains and supports us, and to wonder how we can help create what carries us and what carries what we most value now and into the future. To consider how to work with generosity and care with others to support and sustain whatever that is, and how we find dignity, mutuality, and joy in this effort. I think when we do this, when we pause, we recognize the need for community, for supportive, life-giving practice and relationships. This becomes apparent to us. In other words, we clearly see the need for the Sangha jewel. So as we know, the Buddha taught that we take refuge in three things. The Buddha, our awakened mind, what is most true about us and all beings, the Dharma, the teachings and practices that guide and sustain us, and the Sangha, the community of companions on the path, and more broadly, the entire world, all beings. This last refuge reminds us that practice in life is not a solo act, right? I think we've all figured that out. Community and relationships are essential. Even if we're in a hut by ourselves out in the middle of the wilderness or in a cave or wherever, we're still in relationship. We're always in relationship. And from the beginning of the Buddhist path, people came together, gathered around the Buddha, and practiced together in community. So a Sangha, a community, a practice friends of fellow travelers on this pilgrimage of life, is a Sangha because people make it a Sangha. We care. We bring our bodies and hearts and minds together to investigate this practice and to find what is most true in our lives. And a Sangha is a place where we fit, all of us, a place of welcome and depth. In a Sangha, we recognize our shared humanity, and that humanity takes many shapes, many forms, many different dimensions. And we know that by knowing ourselves and opening ourselves to others, that we are imperfect. We are imperfect beings that share an intention to wake up in this world. So there's a paradox and a kind of reciprocity in Sangha. Any Sangha, Buddhist Sangha, family Sangha, church Sangha, work Sangha, but we're talking about Buddhist Sanghas now, or Sanghas of any kind that come together with a shared intention to support one another. On the one hand, the Sangha is never absent. Our world is a world of relationships. On the other hand, we create Sangha community through our dedication and care for one another. Sangha is a creative act. So I was reminded of a quote by the great James Baldwin, Bodhisattva. He said, "The place in which I'll fit will not exist until I make it. The place in which I'll fit will not exist until I make it." Now, this is James Baldwin, right? Who probably lived his life not fitting very well, pretty much anywhere. And that challenged him. It challenged him to find what worked. And so that challenge, out of that challenge grew wisdom. And that wisdom he gave to us. And one of the ways he gave to us was this quote: "The place in which I'll fit will not exist until I make it." This is what we all need to do. It is our practice in our immediate Sangha and in the larger community. The place, a physical place, and a place in life. We know we don't dictate reality. We have a role to play in creating that which serves our life together. Places, activities, opportunities to simply be who we are at any given time and join with others in our humanity. A place in which I'll fit. The I, which is unique and vital and alive. The you that expresses what you have to give to the world. We're not talking about imposing on others or demanding that others, bend to our will, but giving what we have to give to the world with deep listening and respect. It's a call to come forth with others. And we know this isn't a fit that's doesn't have any rubs or difficulties, right? It's not perfect. It fits. It fits. And he goes on to say, "It will not exist until I make it." We have a responsibility to ourselves and to the world. We don't passively wait for something to come along. We act in concert with reality to make places, communities, times together that serve life. So we listen to James Baldwin. We act to create that which serves. And we find that in that acting to create conditions for deep connection, we discover that there's delight and openness and possibility in that action. Not when everything's perfect, but in the action together. We come to know more who we are and what it means to support a place that fits, a place that supports us, opens us to others, to a wider vision of what is possible, a place that fits and grows us up and grows us out. So there are a few things that we can remember as we go about creating these places. The first is that the Dharma and the practice give us everything we need to work together. And the Buddha and ancestors light the way. We come to know that we can be in this world in a way that is life-giving to us and to others. Whatever happens, we're bound with others and we're on a journey with others, and that can be a life-giving journey. And since we are in community, when we forget this, we have good buddies, mostly human, but also non-human, that can stand by us and remind us that we're not alone, that we are in this together, that we will follow the way of wisdom and compassion together. Here at Ocean Gate, we follow the way of the Buddha, but I don't want us to assume that this is the only way. There are many paths of wisdom and compassion, and those that follow them are also our companions on the path. And even buddies challenge us, rub against us. Even those are with us and stick with us. And in this kind of community and shared commitment towards each other, there is a kind of peace that is real and gritty and solid, a place where we can be, not a place, you know how Zen is talked about in the broader community is like serenity. People imagine our homes as tatami mats with a single flower, right? No towels dropped anywhere or dishes in the sink or squabbles. Everything is fine. We were just talking about Tassajara. Once at Tassajara, somebody came up to me and I had just come from a contentious meeting and they said, "It's so wonderful to be in a place where there's no anger." And I thought, yeah, it would be. No rub, no contention. But without that rub and contention and that shared commitment, we don't grow. We're living in a fantasy world. We know this, right? Any community is like this, and it's part of the jewel. So we rub along together. We remind one another. We are with one another. And when we can feel that shared commitment, even in the midst of rubbing, then we know it's real, right? It's not based on falseness. The name of this time is Come As You Are. And we're serious about that. Come as you are. So in that place of gritty peace, we can let go of the need to grow or grasp or attain. We can engage in our life free from the being controlled by consumption and attainment, even spiritual attainment. We're just here, fully, completely here, supporting and creating a place where we can be here. One of the guides that we can rely on in this process is the teaching that Ehe Dogen, the founder of Soto Zen Buddhism, gave in the Tenzo Kyokan, the instructions for the cook. So I think we know the head cook at a monastery has a very demanding job. Meal planning, managing people, and supporting the practice of everyone there, and getting the carrots in, and the rice, and the tofu, and getting the meals to the zendo on time. It's a very demanding job. And Dogen tells us that when we have such demanding jobs, which is our life, right? It's like, that's what we do. We have a demanding job in this life. That we should cultivate and maintain three aspects of mind and heart. A joyful mind, heart. This is Kishin. A parental or elders mind, heart, which is Roshin. And a magnanimous mind, heart, which is Daishin. So I want to draw particular attention to joyful mind in this, because I think it tells us something about how we are creatively engaging in what James Baldwin is telling us to do. The joyful mind heart is one that knows itself to be engaged in the kind of creative activity that supporting a sangha is, supporting relationships in our life is, building a place in which we fit, a human-sized place of welcome, of respect and aliveness. When we do this, we feel the possibility of our lives. We know the dignity of working with others on behalf of the dignity for all. We have a wide and inclusive view. We're not trapped in our judgments and our thoughts and our, we know that this will not banish pain and heartache. If there would be that ideal, it wouldn't have anything to do with our lives as humans. It would be some other Dharma realm, where all you have to do is smell the Dharma, like the Lotus Sutra. Be like, that's not our world. The joyful mind is found right here, right in this world, right in the midst of everything. We cannot manufacture or grasp it, but we can regard others and ourselves in a way that invites and grows it. We can sit zazen in the midst of our lives with dignity and inclusiveness and connection. We can make choices that support connection and goodness. The mind heart that does that is the mind heart that can taste joy. It's the mind heart that can invite joy to come forth by simply listening, taking care, practicing with gratitude. Some time ago, I read an obituary of a woman who died here in Santa Cruz at the age of 108. 108. You figure she saw a lot in her life. So she said, you have to accept pain as your friend during periods of life. Who wants to hear that, right? You have to accept pain as your friend in periods of life. Your friend, not just to endure or gut it out. That kind of, my hip is killing me. I'm about to die and I'm going to endure it. Or I just lost, some friends of ours just lost their beloved cat, like that. We live through these times and it can be much worse than that. Although it may not feel like at a time when you lose a beloved friend. But she says, you must accept pain as your friend. As your friend, it teaches you something. It's not the whole of life, but it teaches you something. And she also said about sustaining herself. Find a place inside where there is joy, and the joy will burn out the pain. Find a place inside where there is joy, and joy will burn out the pain. These words of an elder, a real elder, 108, have something to tell us, I think. Joy is brought forth from our deepest being in the midst of this imperfect, sometimes fraught life. right alongside it, in the midst of it, in the midst of situations that are painful, scary, anxious, bored. And when that happens, our world opens up and it settles. Our sense of perspective is restored. Life comes back alive. Sometimes we need to actively remember this, or we need others to help us bring it forth. Sometimes it is hidden for a time, but is never absent. And it's when it's hidden, sometimes our buddies can remember it for us and help us remember ourselves. So living in Sangha together is an act of generosity and creativity, giving to ourselves and others a broad and deep vision that sustains us and guides us. It helps us keep our sense of humor, our humility, our connection. Dogen says, a joyful spirit is one of gratefulness and buoyancy. You should consider this carefully. So we consider it carefully. We wonder, when are the moments of gratitude? When do we feel that? Connection, joy, not trumpets blaring, but that simple, quiet sense. Buoyancy. An image that's used sometimes in Buddhist teachings about buoyancy is that if you have a balloon that's filled with air and you push it down in the water and you let go, it will naturally rise up, right? That's the natural nature of our mind. It will rise up, not be bound. When we hear James Baldwin's words and follow where they lead, when we know that the place in which I'll fit will not exist until I make it, and we engage in that practice, we find liberation, we find dignity, we find engagement. The dignity that we have then when we know ourselves to be a part of the whole of reality brings with it quietness, joyfulness, buoyancy, the ability to continue, to know one another, to know that we have the capacity to bring life to life together. Thank you. Questions?